to the Sideload, where we're converting ranch fans into blue cheese lovers, one wing at a time. I'm your host, Will Sattelberg. Today, my guest is Joe Maring, trending editor at Android Authority and former mobile section editor at Digital Trends. For the past couple of weeks, Joe's been working on his in-depth Pixel 10 Pro review, which also included a trip to Buffalo to spend the entirety of Labor Day weekend hanging out with me, and also taking a ton of photos. So we're going to talk a lot about the camera. Welcome to the show, Joe.
Thank you. Lots of photos, mostly of your cat Linus, who became my best friend on that trip.
I will display the photo right now of him looking up at you for the video.
My nephew
viewers,
Linus,
because it is a very cute photo. He really took to you. So, Joe, you've used pretty much every Pixel, correct?
Yeah. Since the Pixel 6, like 6, 7, 8, 9,
oh, so
10.
You're a fake Pixel fan.
Well, all the Tensor ones. I think the only gap I have is the Pixel 3. But other than that, every Pixel that we've had.
Where does the Pixel 10, or I should say 10 Pro, land for you so far among the rankings of Pixel phones? Because it's a big one. 10th generation. It's a big one.
I mean, it's the newest Pixel, so like obviously it's technically the best that like we've seen from Google so far. It's an interesting phone because like it's obviously not dramatically different from the Pixel 9 Pro just because it's essentially the same phone just with newer Tensor chip and some slightly bigger battery, but like the cameras are the same, the display's the same, and it's not the most exciting Pixel. Like I think it's easy to overlook, especially when like the base Pixel 10 seems more interesting with the telephoto camera, and that's the big change for the base model. But
yeah,
it's really good. Like it's not thrilling, but it works. I've had a very good time with it. We'll get into the camera stuff in a bit because I think we have some conflicting thoughts on how photos look. But yeah, like everything that has made past Pixels good is obviously still there, all now playing, the call assist stuff, all the software things. I still really like this design. Like I'm perfectly fine with them keeping the 9 Pro design just because I think outside of it being a little heavy and a little thick, like it's grown on me a lot. I think it is fantastic. And also the jade color looks incredible in person.
It does, yeah. Your phone was the first time I had seen the jade color in person.
It's real pretty.
I did not go to the event this year, and it is very pretty. Although it is more of a mint than a jade. It is very reminiscent of the mint color they've done for like the 8 Pro in years past.
For sure. But no, I mean like if I don't know, like if you've got a Pixel 9 Pro, I think it's pretty easy to say like you don't have to rush out and get this, but
right.
Like this will be the phone that my like main SIM card is in going forward until who knows what comes out next year or something with OnePlus 15 or whatever Samsung comes out with the S26
when you spend
series.
$3,000 on a Samsung trifold.
Exactly. My next phone for sure. But no, I've been having a great time with it. Like I like Pixel stuff. Like they've been my go-to Android phones for a while. It's another Pixel in a lot of regards. Like there's nothing groundbreaking here, not even with Tensor G5, which is a little disappointing, but like I've been overwhelmingly happy with it, even if it's not the most groundbreaking model we've seen from Google before.
Yeah. Well, let's get into this then, because you came out to Buffalo to hang out with me and my fiance, you and your partner over Labor Day weekend. So you're here Friday to Monday. And I think that's a really, and I would have loved to, I've never done a review like this where you've really been able to like really put a phone through like the stress of travel. I guess maybe a couple times I wrote the bulk of my Pixel 8a review in a hotel room in Mountain View, right? Because it was because the embargo timing for that was so short and it was settled around or centered around IO. It was really a pain. But I don't remember really talking about traveling with it because I had already kind of cemented my thoughts on it by the time I opened my laptop in Mountain View, you have the opportunity because it's tricky, right? Like I actually, as much as I think tensor problems can be a little overblown at times, they become really apparent when you travel. This is a phone or like previous tensor generations, even up through the 9 series, get really hot the second you have a particularly bad cell signal, which you often do at airports, especially if you're just sitting on the plane waiting to take off and you are going for long stretches, and none of these phones have particularly like incredible battery life, like especially compared to something like a OnePlus 13. So I'm kind of curious how this held up, and not that Grand Rapids to Buffalo is the longest flight in the world, right? Like you had a layover, but largely speaking, it was like it was 4-ish hours of travel. But like, how did the phone hold up for you? Like, what was that experience like? Because that is like a unique way to review a phone.
Right. I mean, honestly, like the biggest, I guess, issue that day was battery life, which is to be expected. I think that day I started at like 4 a.m. with a full charge, a disgusting time to wake up for an early flight. And then by 9 p.m. that evening, I was down to 11%. And I think I'd been using battery saver for a bit once it hit 20% earlier in the evening. And that was only with 2 hours, like just under 3 hours of screen on time, which like doesn't sound amazing, but like that was the day where, like you mentioned, 4 hours plus of travel time between a couple of different airports, and
you were on cellular for all of that, because I did not give you my Wi-Fi password till the next morning. I did forget, so I did make you just get on a cell network. Yeah. So
like LTE/5G exclusively, like no Wi-Fi other than like a little bit early in the morning.
Right.
A massive amount of photos that first day because we went to City Hall in Buffalo and then Niagara Falls, obviously. So dozens and dozens and dozens of photo samples that day. And it would have been nice. I mean, 11% at 9 p.m. isn't ideal, but for that intense.
And if we had done everything we had planned that day, the night would not have ended at 9 p.m. So you would have had to top up, I suppose.
Right. But for that early of a start at 4 a.m. and considering the travel time, the photos I was taking, like I was not babying or monitoring my usage throughout the day in any way. And thankfully we did call it an early night. So like we were home and I wasn't having to worry about going out somewhere with like 11% battery and running out of juice somewhere. So I would have preferred like some extra endurance,
but
obviously.
You also, you never asked me for a charger or something. You never, we were in my truck and you never were like, oh, can I plug my phone in? Like, right. And I do think there's something good about that compared to, compared to having to deal with like, oh, if you were at, 20% in the mid-afternoon or something, like having to top up. Like if you think about it, like 4 a.m. to 9 p.m., if you adjust your hours, right? Like if you were to wake up at like 7, that gets you to midnight.
For sure.
That's not bad. And I would say that's a lot better than previous Pixel generations.
Definitely. And like I never had an instance that day from when I can remember of the phone heating up to an uncomfortable extent.
That's crucial. That's actually the big one, because for whatever you can say about Pixel battery, and I'm rocking a Pixel 10, battery is fine. It's fine. It's not very good. I'm at 64 right now at 3:30 in the afternoon, and frankly, I think that's a little low for how much I've used the phone. But it's not terrible. But the heat problem is like more or less solved after 5 generations of Tensor, which is frustrating, but it's like, great. Okay, that's what I've been waiting for. Like the fact that, again, we were on cellular for so much of Labor Day weekend, and like I never felt the phone get particularly warm. Maybe a couple times, but really like, not any more than a normal, like any other smartphone.
Yeah, I think probably if there was one time it heated up, it was maybe when we were either on the Maid of the Mist going through the falls and just snapping a lot of photos, or just around Buffalo that day. Just because, I mean, that's for any phone though. If you've got the camera app open for an extended period and you're snapping dozens of pictures, like it's going to warm up a little bit, but it never got to the point where it was like, oh, this is like worryingly warm the way I've experienced with like even the Pixel 9 series and the 8 and the 7 for sure. Like in the couple of weeks or so, less than 2 weeks I've used it, like the only times it's really gotten warm was like setup day with installing apps. Like the first day I took it out of the box, just when you're downloading dozens of apps and logging into everything. But again, that's something with every phone. And it's warmed up. It's gotten pretty warm with benchmarks.
Didn't even get hot during that, to be honest with you. Like, I was kind of surprised that mine was completely fine during setup, because, and I had it, you know, I think I mentioned this on an episode of Pixelated, 9to5 Google's other podcast, but I had it on like in front of me on a coffee table during parts of that setup, like while apps were transferring. But I was surprised, like if I was going to feel it heat up, it was going to be during that process, and I was really surprised that it didn't.
Sure. But I mean, like, so like really it's just been that, and then benchmarks, which again is an every phone thing. Like it's going to get warm if you're running 20 loops of 3D Mark or something. So it is very much not the days of like I'm using Twitter for 20 minutes and it's a little hand warmer, because that's how it used to be for these phones. And like you said, it's annoying that it's taken 5 generations of this chip for Google to get to this point, but I'm also not mad that we're finally at that point. Like, I'll take okay battery and a Tensor chip and a Pixel phone that isn't like concerning me with how much it's warming up. Like it's not the 2-day phone I maybe hoped it would be with TSMC producing it, not. But like it is forward
which
progress,
is frustrating, right? Because like I feel like, you know, every Snapdragon powered like flagship phone is kind of a 2-day phone, you know, like there are some exceptions. Like I don't think the smaller S25 is really going to get you through that, but like, you know, largely speaking, like even the S25 Ultra, I remember the battery life being like pretty strong. And then, you know, again, you have your outliers like the OnePlus 13, where I don't think I could kill that thing in a day if I tried. Like, I guess if you just left it like something like Genshin Impact running at full brightness, at full graphics specs, just in the back, like forever, just put it on a desk and walked away and just timed it till it died, probably. But like, there were days where I ended like with like 60% on that thing. Like it truly, that thing is kind of a beast. And I didn't expect the Pixel to be that, but I did kind of expect a little bit more on the battery life side. It's not bad, but it's like, it's now starting to become confusing of like, okay, but this should be a little better than this, right?
Yeah.
Like it should be matching like your rivals.
Yeah, and it's not an even, like, I don't think it's an issue of capacity. I forget the exact number for the 10 Pro, but I think it's, just shy of 5,000 milliamp hours, I want to say.
Yeah, they all got slight boosts this year.
Yeah.
But like not enough to really make an impact from what I can tell.
No, but it's just interesting because I think it's like 48 or 4,900, and then you compare that to the baby S25, which is a 4,000 milliamp hour unit, I think.
Only 4,000, yeah.
And like you're talking a pretty substantial difference. And like for my time with the base S25, I think that was like about a 1-day phone, similar to the Pixel 10 Pro battery.
Yeah.
And it is interesting of like we have a dramatically almost 1,000 milliamp hour difference of a bigger battery in the Pixel 10 Pro, which is similar size screen and everything as the S25, and it's producing like that same kind of 1-day battery. And it's like the TSMC switch, like that obviously addressed the heating issue, but for whatever reason that didn't fix the battery stuff. And like it would have been ideal to have both of those things fixed in this generation with that switch. But if anything, like Google has its one last problem to address that for the G6 next year.
The Reddit community would disagree with you, because I know there are plenty of mobile gamers out there who are frustrated, let's say, with the... I'm curious what you think of this, what you make of this, because I don't understand why people care, right? Because there are so many alternatives, and I maybe I'll piss people off with that, but like, it is very clear to me, and has been very clear for many generations now, that Google does not particularly care about gaming performance on this phone, as long as it can play most games fine, and it can play most games fine. Like, it really, I have not run into any issues with the couple of games I play, but they're fairly casual. Like, Balatro is not pushing the envelope here. You know, I understand why people who are in like into like Hoyoverse games would be frustrated that their $1,000, $1,200 smartphone does not play that game that well. But as I have been like kind of shouting from the rooftops of anyone who will listen to me for like at least a year now, it's like like you're better off buying like a cheaper phone like a Pixel 9a and getting something like a dedicated handheld these days, like a Steam Deck or a Switch or anything, than you are really like trying to maximize performance on mobile anyway. And like, those phones exist too. Like, the OnePlus 13 is a better gaming phone than this. The S25 Ultra is a better gaming phone than this. And again, if you're a Pixel fan, but you're also a gamer, I do understand where the frustration comes from, but it's just not the audience that Google is chasing here. And I don't mind them prioritizing other features on the phone, although the features they're prioritizing are all AI, and they are really hit or miss this cycle. And
yeah,
so that's kind of its own point. So I get where people are coming from, but I think it's fascinating that like there is clearly a disconnect between what a select group of Pixel fans want and are demanding versus what Google sees as a priority.
Yeah, and it's, I don't know, I kind of look at it the same way, where like the OnePlus 13, I like that phone a lot because it is just unbelievably fast. The battery's fantastic. The charge speeds are great. And like, I accept that it doesn't really have anything interesting in the way of AI features or other software features that like a Pixel 10 Pro has. Like, I know I'm making that trade-off. If I want to use that phone, I'm not getting Now Playing or deeper Gemini integration or the call assist tools. Like, I'm not getting those things, but I'm getting battery, performance, charging, all that stuff. So like, I'm okay making that same sacrifice for the Pixel 10 Pro, where I know doesn't have the best battery life, and it's not going to be the best phone for super graphically intense games. But the upside is that like, it's one of the only compact like true flagships, and it's got all the Pixel software that I value personally a lot more than being able to play Genshin or something buttery smooth the way I could on a OnePlus 13 or S25 Ultra or something. So I don't know. I think it's in a perfect world, like, we would have everything on every phone, but I think it's okay for Google to focus on certain aspects, and that comes at the expense of other things. Yeah. And like, that's
what differentiates it from the competition.
Yeah. And that's true of everybody. It's just where these companies are focusing their efforts on. But it's fun to complain about pixels, and boy, oh boy, people like to do that. So I think it just gets voiced a lot more than some other phones.
Yeah, I think this is like leftover. This is a leftover vibe from the Nexus days, right? And I've said this elsewhere on the internet, but like, I do think that part of the enthusiast, need for the Pixel to be a flagship powerhouse smartphone, setting aside the price point of these devices, because they are not as cheap as they used to be, comes from like the fact that like Nexus devices were kind of like that, or at the very least they were more focused on being an overall, you had your Nexus 5s or whatever, your Nexus 4 and 5, which were kind of budget flagships, but you had like a Nexus 6 or a 6P that I would say were like kind of traditional flagships of the time. And I think that enthusiast mindset has like never left and carried over to Pixel, despite Pixel being like a very different smartphone lineup. It was not just a rebrand, right? Like it was like, it's something new.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's probably it. I mean, because like you said, they were both made for very different target audiences, and I understand just assuming that Pixel is like the evolution of Nexus, like it's just what Google rebranded to, but we know that's not the case. Like it was a pretty clear shift for what Google wanted their phones to be. But if you have, 6+ years of Google kicking out phones with the Nexus brand, and people came to expect a certain thing from a Google sold and marketed phone, and that, like you said, I think that's a good point where it did kind of carry over to Pixels. You would think that would die down a little bit 10 years later, but it pretty clearly has not. Maybe
as strong as ever.
Maybe year 11 will be the year that it stops. It won't, but we'll see.
Just Lucy with the football. Joe, okay, let's pivot to talking about the camera, because I inadvertently gave you just a gold mine of photo opportunities when I planned out a Labor Day weekend trip for you. And you're welcome, by the way, because I don't know if people know out there, but like, if you review a lot of smartphones, it becomes really annoying to start finding either like new photo sample, like things to take photos of that you haven't already done 20 times, or like specifically mapping out your weekend to be like, oh, I gotta go to dinner. I have to go to dinner, because if I don't go to dinner, I'm not going to have anything to take a photo of. So I have to go out to dinner this weekend, even though I don't even really want to, because photo samples must be taken. And so I did you the courtesy of planning out an entire weekend where we ate out like 4 times a day.
I'm still recovering from
it. The most scenic places I could think of in Buffalo. So you're welcome. What was your photo experience like? How did you enjoy shooting on the Pixel 10 Pro?
It's really, really nice. There's a lot to talk about, and I think probably a lot of it will come to color science and the look of the photos. But one of the things
I think so,
that I was really, really impressed with was the telephoto camera on it, which the hardware is the same 5x sensor that was on the Pixel 9 Pro, but the big change this year is that instead of the 30x maximum zoom cap that the 9 Pro had, it can go all the way up to 100x, which 100x photos are okay for certain things, but
Did you take a lot of 100x photos while you were here? I honestly don't remember you showing me any.
Like a handful of them, just to have experience with it. But more so than that, I think it's just the flexibility you have, like not going all the way to 100x, but the fact that 30x photos are shockingly usable. Not for all subjects, but like for a building or still moving objects. Like 30x is shockingly good, even going up to 50x. I've gotten some really good photos. And anytime you go beyond, or if you go to the 30x marker and beyond, is when ProRes zoom kicks in, and it'll give you 2 copies of the photos, one being the original, and then the second being the AI processing that ProRes zoom did to enhance it. And it's kind of scary, like how good it looks. Like I know there's the whole debate of, is it still a photo if AI is kind of filling in the gaps and making educated guesses of like how to, enhance a building or, fill in details of like a butterfly that's far away or something. But I kind of don't really care about that side of it. Like
I know where you're coming from though. Especially like these, I don't know. We are so far into like every smartphone now is like, is doing massive amounts of post-processing and I don't know. I understand the idea, but I don't. the answer is that like computational photography is the default on mobile, right? If you're shooting with a smartphone, you're probably shooting computational photography. And if you don't want to count that as a typical smartphone or a typical photo, that's fine. I think that's totally, I don't think that's like an invalid response to have, but at the same time, like we're like a decade into this. Like I get that the boundary keeps pushing, right? Like I understand that it keeps being a little bit more every generation, not just with Pixel, but with everybody of like, oh, well, you're removing this and you're adding this. And at what point is the photo no longer real, right? When does the ship of Theseus stop being the ship of Theseus or whatever? But I just think that's, I don't know. I've gotten bored by this, argument because you could have said the same thing about Photoshop, right? Like I've never, somebody, cleaning up a photo in Photoshop doesn't make it not a photo. And so I think the answer is that if you feel strong about this, you can either use, a third-party camera app, especially on Android, where you can set it as your default and all that, or you can go buy a camera and you can shoot with a real camera, and like that is a traditional photo, and you don't have to edit it or whatever. You can do what you want with it. I'm not putting down people who get caught up in this, but it is what it is. And I don't think like this photo apocalypse that ever came where like everybody is just removing crowds of people from their shots. Like I think largely speaking, these tools are not really utilized in the way that like Google's marketing would make you think they are. And so I don't know. I understand where people come from, but I don't think we're ever going to hit the point where it's like, oh yeah, everybody's photos are just like 60% fake. Like 60% of what's in that photo is just like made up on the phone. And maybe I'm wrong, and maybe I'm being too optimistic about the future of photography, but I think like, I don't know. Like I think making up for the shortcomings of like specific camera hardware with like good camera software and good camera processing does not make it like a false photo.
No. And like it's just been fun to have that flexibility. Like I was walking my dog the other day, and there was a butterfly on the tree next to us, and like I knew with him I would not be able to get close to it to get a picture, so I just punched into 50x, snapped a photo, and the ProRes zoom stuff took what normally before the processing was like a crunchy, blotchy mess. Like it turned it into like a shockingly like clean, decent photo. Like it filled in gaps and stuff, but like it knows what a monarch butterfly looks like. And like it's a fun shot that like I don't know, like even with an S25 Ultra or something, like if I would have trusted it to get that photo, just because the processing that the ProRes zoom does for like an insect or buildings especially, I think it strikes a good balance of filling in those missing patches, and kind of like filling it in with AI, but not overdoing it. Like it doesn't work on people or statues. Like it's really just for, a sunrise or, a plant far away or like any kind of inanimate structure object. And like moral questions aside about like what that does to the photograph, like it's just really cool to be able to, zoom in 50x to like something that's far away and get a photo that is shockingly usable. And even just for the 5x and 10x, like they're just always really, really good. And just having that range of options to take photos with is, it adds a lot to what that camera system can do. And like even with the telephoto camera being on the base Pixel 10, like there is still just a lot more versatility you get with the Pro this year. But yeah. That's been a big standout for sure so far.
Yeah, I'm not super impressed by the 5x telephoto on the regular 10, and I didn't really expect to me. It's about as okay as I thought it would be. Where it's like, well, this is clearly going to be like a fairly large step down from the rest of the Pros, and yeah, I would say it's a step down from the rest of the Pros. Like, it will get you the shot. It will do a better 5x, zoom than if you took a 5x shot on the Pixel 9 right? Like for sure. But dedicated hardware, like it's certainly not as good of a sensor as what's in the pros, and I think that's okay. I think just having that there alone like makes this phone kind of feel more flexible, and like I felt that a lot when you and I were at the falls, right, where it was just very easy, and you have so much daylight when you're outside that like those are the best shots you can get anyway, so that was really nice. But obviously it's if you are stuck between these two devices and a good telephoto lens is important to you, like you should still buy the Pro. And I don't think anybody should be surprised by that. I think the second we heard that they were adding this telephoto lens, I think we all expected it to be, kind of a wash between the two.
Yeah. And like it's still cool that like that option is there on the base model now, and now it's just a choice of
definitely
what quality of zoom experience do you want, as opposed to like obviously you could zoom a little bit on the Pixel 9, but like you now have like some actual zooming you can do, as opposed to like really not any. Now it's just do you want decent flexibility there? Do you want to go up to 30x, or do you want to go past that to 100 and just higher quality across the board? So nice it's there now. Like I said, now it's cool. It's an option of what level of it do you want. Do you want to talk about image processing and how photos look?
I was going to say, we have to talk about processing. Let's talk about processing. So
the big sigh before.
I know. As I talked about a couple of weeks ago with Ben Schoen, with our friend Ben, I was really hoping the spot in the Made by Google presentation this year where the professional photographer who they brought on stage talked about the colors that he was seeing reproduced in the shots he was getting from the Pixel 10, and he showed some of them, and I was like, wow, that they look contrasty, they look saturated. That is exactly what I have been looking for from the Pixel. This is what has been lacking for the last couple of generations, is any sense of contrast. Specifically when they switched, when they launched Ultra HDR support, I have found it really lacking in terms of, you'll take a shot, what looks like a great shot of the viewfinder, and you'll watch just everything you thought was going to be good about the shot just drain away from it as the photo processes. And my initial impressions of the Pixel 10 were like, oh no, they didn't fix it. It's like exactly as I remember it. And that was with Ultra HDR off, to be honest. And that was with rich colors on. And both of those are like hidden in the camera settings. And I don't know, maybe somebody's going to yell at me and say that I'm dumb for turning off Ultra HDR and that's actually only going to make my photos less contrasty. Possible. I will say that like I just don't particularly like the look of Ultra HDR overall. I have shot enough photos with it to know not my thing. I feel like you have been much more forgiving of the processing than I have been. So I'm curious to get your take, and then maybe we can bounce back and forth a little bit.
Yeah, it's been a few months since or probably close to a year since I spent like any serious time with the Pixel 9 Pro camera. So it's hard to think about what those photos look like in comparison to the Pixel 10 Pro to like really say if the color science
you
is
switched
different
back to
between
your
the two.
daily driver Red Hydrogen 1.
Yes, yeah, best Android phone of the past decade. But yeah, outside of my time with the Red Hydrogen 1, no, like I was looking through Google Photos today when I was writing the Pixel 10 Pro review and writing the camera section, and there have been a couple of photos here and there where, especially like indoor of my dog, like if it's kind of dim inside, where he just looks deathly ill in some shots where like I know his fur was a bit browner. I know the room wasn't this like horrid shade of gray, but
no, and I've got the same thing, right? Because you've just met my cat Linus, as we mentioned earlier. He's pretty orange. He's a pretty orange. He's got his days. He's got his blonde days, but he's largely speaking pretty orange. And I have shown you photos taken back to back on the Pixel 10 and the regular iPhone 16 with photographic style applied, excuse me. And it's like he doesn't even look orange in the Pixels photo. He looks like a blonde cat, like straight up. And so yeah, I totally know what you mean. Especially it seems particularly bad in like darker scenes, darker lighting. Like I agree with you that for whatever reason, if you take something in like relatively low light, the Pixels processing just goes like, oh, I don't know, man. You just want us to brighten all of this up and kind of just drain the color from it, right? It's like, no, that's not what I want at all.
Yeah. So like there have been probably like a handful of shots where I've seen that, but like there have also been we were at like a whiskey bar one of the nights we went out, and I was taking pictures of my partner, and like it was a fairly dimly lit table we were at.
Yeah, the lighting in there is not good, I would say.
But like looking at like the photos of them, like they've got pretty bright blue hair and they had like a red and black flannel on, and like it looks good to me. Like it's not overly saturated or contrasty, but for that sort of bad lighting that we had, like it still looks or has the feeling of like we're in a dark setting, but like there's still some color there and it's not totally washed out. Like there have been multiple photos like that where I've taken a couple too of my black cat like sitting in my office when like the sun's blaring at her from the background, and like her fur is like this nice rich black color, and like it handles like challenging lighting situations well. And even in like broad daylight of like some of the murals we saw downtown and just some flowers that were there, like a lot of those shots that there is not as much color as I would expect to get in like the S25 Ultra or the OnePlus 13 or something. But to my eye, at least, like they also don't look so washed out and unappealing that I think they look bad. And like thinking on it, like I think we talked about this a little bit last weekend, but the OnePlus 13, like some of my favorite photos I think from this year I've taken on that phone, just because like there's a very intentional look to how those photos look. There's a really intentional color science that kind of favors contrast and like colors that maybe aren't 100% lifelike, but like there's a style to them, and like sometimes that works really, really well, and I've gotten some gorgeous photos on there. But like I've also had other times where it
totally whiffs.
It completely misses. Like it's a 0 to 100 phone of like sometimes it looks great and other times like it just looks really bad. And I think I'm maybe at the point where I'm okay, or I maybe prefer having not necessarily like a blank canvas, but having a photo that like I can press the shutter button, and with like the OnePlus 13, it's like an 80% chance I'm gonna love it, and there's like a 20% chance it's gonna not be pleasing to look at. Where like the Pixel 10 Pro, it's for me, it's like just shy of like 100 or 99%. Where like I know this is going to be a good, consistent photo that if I want it to be a little more contrasty, it's like an easy thing to edit. And I respect that, you know, there is an advantage to just not having to make those edits if you don't want to, having a phone like the OnePlus 13 or the S25 Ultra that sort of gives them that kind of pre-edited look by default. But for me anyway, like I think I value more that option of like, I know more often than not I'm going to like the photo and I can edit it slightly if I want to, as opposed to most of my photos might look really good, but there could be some that are just unusable to my eye.
I think where I start to get frustrated with Google's approach to this, right, is that this is not a zero-sum game, right? The Pixel is like the most reliable smartphone camera on the market, I would say, but I don't know if I'd go as far to say it's like the best. I don't know what the best is. It's probably a phone that is exclusively available in China with like a massive 1-inch sensor, and like that's probably technically the best, some kind of Oppo phone or something, like the best camera you can get technically. But it is certainly the most reliable, and I am finding myself frustrated with the Pixel because this lack of contrast and this lack of any amount of like saturation or right, like that was not always a problem with these phones. Like that is like a tensor era problem, right? I would say. I think this started cropping up around the Pixel 6 or 7 and has gotten kind of, more apparent again with Ultra HDR, with the Pixel 9 and Pixel 10. And, that used to be there, right? Like I had a Pixel 2 XL and like I remember shooting some like exceptional photos on it that were, detailed and rich, and like certainly are lacking in certain ways compared to photos today, but like largely speaking, like looked really good. And especially for the time, right? This is almost a decade ago. Jesus. And I don't think there's anything stopping Google from adding the ability for someone like you or me to like tweak how the photo looks prior to hitting the shutter button in the way that Apple allows you to do. Now, I hate Apple's implementation of this, right? Like I think photographic styles are like terribly implemented and like confusing to use. And frankly, I think I just said it to the exact thing that Becca Versace shoots at when I watched her video, and I was like, those photos look good, sure. And so it's like, it's contrasty and saturated and rich and all this stuff. And again, much like the OnePlus 13, like sometimes that means you don't get a photo that looks exactly how you want it to, or like maybe doesn't look completely true to life, but always does kind of look, stark in a way that the Pixel 10 can look washed out. And it's different preferences. But I don't understand, if Google is the, we believe in choice, we believe in, and, we're not going to tell you how to do things. Like, I do think there could be a lot gained from adding, a pre-shutter button sense of like flexibility on how these photos look. And it's really frustrating to me that like, despite, plenty of people, not just you and I, not even just like reporters or reviewers, but just regular consumers, like saying like, no, this is something I want. I want to be able to control how my photo looks before I take it, not after. Especially because, Google Photos is so insistent on you using like their AI tools and not like just sliders or whatever. They want you to hit the like optimize button, which every time I've tested it just makes the photo look worse. It's like it like reprocesses it. It just makes it brighter and less contrasty again, which is terrible. Like they could do that. Like they could add their own version of photographic styles, and people could say, oh, you're just ripping Apple off. But like, I don't know. Like, I really think that like, even if it was hidden under like some kind of pro mode, like I don't understand why Google, wants to sell me this package of like, this is the greatest camera on a smartphone right now, but makes it so difficult to customize it to my own taste.
Yeah. Well, it is frustrating because obviously I would like to see like new camera hardware at some point on a future Pixel, but like right now, I think the ultra wide primary telephoto camera like sensors on the Pixel 10 Pro like had very, very little to complain about from a technical perspective there. And I think I don't think there's been like a hardware issue with these phones cameras for a while now. And it seems like like you said, the one complaint, like the big thing that people are unhappy with is just that look to photos. And you would think, especially from Google and like with what Google's capable of with the NPU and its sensor chips, like you think it should be fairly simple to create a better photographic styles of just you can manipulate the photo to have a certain look before you press the shutter button. This, if there's any phone that's poised to like have that capability, whether it's using however little AI to make that happen, it should not be a difficult thing. And like you think that could just be rolled out, and now you can choose if you want a little more contrast or if you want some more shadows or whatever your preferences are. If that option was just there, I don't think, I mean, not that it would be a perfect camera phone because that doesn't exist, but if the option was there to have these photos look like
except for the red hydrogen one. I want to be clear, Joe.
Obviously,
the red hydrogen one did exist
with that asterisk. RIP red hydrogen one. But outside of that, you think that would solve, the 99% of complaints that exist with Pixel phones now?
Yeah.
And even as like someone like myself who is for the most part pretty happy with how these photos look, like I would still like that option too, just because for certain scenes, like even if I stick with the default option 90% of the time, like having the ability to switch it for specific types of photos, or if you just want to play around with a different look, like that should exist. And again, for a company like Google, you think this would be something that they would have beaten Apple and other companies too, but for whatever reason, it's not there, and it just seems like such an obvious hole to fill. And you would think that there's been enough. Not that Google is obsessed with Reddit threads, although they might be, given how the start of the Pixel 10 launch event went. Like they have to know that like they have to know that this is a thing that at least a loud portion of people are not thrilled with, and to not meaningfully address it, like it is really frustrating for sure.
So this is my cry, right? And your cry to a lesser extent, but my cry out to Google, like please, like just a little more flexibility, a little more customization before, I get it. You can go edit, and I don't want to edit every photo. I want to edit the 10% that I'm not happy with, not the 90% that I'm mostly happy with. So I don't know. Like that's kind of where I fall, right? And it's again, this is not a bad camera system. It's quite a good camera system, and it's very reliable. It's just frustrating that it could be like a great camera system if they just like let up on their control just a little bit.
Post something on Reddit. Maybe Jimmy will read it at the Pixel 11 event on a piece of paper, and you'll get your request.
Oh man, do you think they're bringing Jimmy Fallon back next year?
Maybe they switch it up and it's Kimmel. That'd be worse, but I don't know. They should do Conan. If we're gonna do a late night host, we should bring Conan out. That's my request.
I would love Conan is, an inspiration to me, so I'd be down with that. I think I like Kimmel. I'm fairly certain I like Kimmel more than Fallon. I will say I'm not a big Kimmel fan, and to be honest with you, most of my interactions with him come from him hosting the Oscars, not his late night show. But yeah, I would take Conan. Conan's kind of retired though. He's on the podcast game.
What's Jay Leno up to?
Direct competitors.
What's he doing?
He's got his cars.
Maybe he needs a Pixel 11.
I don't know. That's what Leno's up to. Okay. Before we go, let's talk a little bit about an editorial that you had go up over the weekend. That I love this headline. I believe it was your own headline, so yes. Well done. Daily Hub is one of the worst Pixel features I've ever used.
It's not good.
Joe.
Yes, Will.
Joe, tell me about Daily Hub.
Oh, Daily Hub. So this is, for all intents and purposes, Google's version of Now Brief. I love these product names that launched on the S25 series this year. And
okay, no. I am going to stop you here. We do need to talk about these product names because Now Brief was already bad.
Yes.
Like it was already bad. Daily Hub is genuine. It feels like they like copied and pasted Now Brief and went to Gemini and were like, hey, come up with a synonym for Now Brief. And one of the suggestions was Daily Hub, and they were like, we got it. I don't understand why this isn't just called Google Now again. Like really, I understand that would just be kind of like it's not Google Now again, but it's kind of trying to be Google Now again. And so like, I don't, if they see a future for this feature that is labeled preview, and I assume they expect to continue building out and adding features to, why not call it the name that has like nostalgia among like Android nerds and like is catchy and like memorable and like means something, right? Because the idea was that you were checking in on what was happening now.
Right.
And instead they call it Daily Hub, which is like barely true because I have not I've gotten prompted for it once. Every other time I've had to go use the Daily Hub, I need to open it through the Play Store. I need to remember it exists, search the Play Store for Daily Hub, and then hit open.
Is it still not in Google Discover for you?
Nope.
Oh,
nope,
cool.
It's not Discover for me. So like it's not particularly daily, and it's not a very good hub. So I don't know, like the name it's already bad and it doesn't fit very well. So I'm sorry, but like we have to start with the name, and the name is bad. Okay, well, continue. It's a Now Brief clone.
Yes. What's frustrating, and we'll move on from the name. The Pixel Watch 3 has morning brief each morning when you wake up. That's like a preview of your day.
Correct. Yeah.
So they had the brief name, and like I could have taken Daily Brief, which maybe is too close to Now Brief. Anyway, naming aside. So Daily Hub is supposed to exist in Google Discover, which obviously is not the case for everybody, which was also not the case for me the first day I had the phone. But when you open Daily Hub, there are 3 main sections that are always there. The top of it starts with the weather. If you tap on it, it just redirects you to Pixel Weather, and there's like a short paragraph that is just describing the weather for the day ahead, if it's the morning or in the afternoon or the evening or whatever time of day it is. The section below that is recommended entertainment from apps on your phone. So I've had things show up from YouTube. I've had stuff show up from Pocket Casts. I've had stuff show up from Peacock, which is on my Pixel 10 Pro. So is essentially any streaming app, any media app, any podcast app, like stuff can surface there.
But like crucially, the YouTube recommendations are garbage, and that's all because I don't have any. I don't watch streaming. Like I don't keep like Netflix on my phone. Like I don't watch streaming stuff on my phone unless I'm traveling, and usually at that point I just I download the app before the trip, and I usually remove it after the trip because it's just not something I'm doing at home. And so all I have to go off here are the Pocket Cast suggestions, which are just picking random podcasts from my Pocket Cast app, which is fine, I guess, but I can do that too. And like random YouTube videos. I have one right now that is like a random Pixel 10 Pro durability test, and another one that is fantasy football start-sit recommendations for week 1. Not like I guess those are technically recommendations for me in that I've looked up things about the Pixel 10 and fantasy football on YouTube before. But like, wouldn't it be smarter to pull from my subscriptions? Google, you have those. You know what I'm subscribed to on YouTube.
Yeah, it's been similar for me. I've seen like some videos from channels I've interacted with, or like football videos from channels I've not necessarily watched before, but like I've watched football videos or fantasy videos from other channels. Right now, I've got Whitney Cummings.
I'm sorry, really quickly, Joe. I have to interrupt you, Joe. The durability test I just referenced has 1 view. That's what they're recommending to me.
It's just looking out for small. It's looking out for small creators.
I'll put a video. I'll put a photo up.
Google's looking out for the
and that's
little
fine.
guy.
I don't. Now, this does also just seem to be like a still image repeated 4 times over and not a real video. but sure, man. I don't like, that's what I mean when I'm like, what are we doing here? Like, you could actually make real recommendations to me. And instead, at least the fantasy football one has 139,000 views. That's like a real video. But like the other one, I'm sorry, like it was uploaded a day ago. I think I might be that view.
My excellent pick right now is hashtag motivation, hashtag mindset, hashtag motivational,
Great.
hashtag stay focused at Good Mythical Morning. And it's a 15-second video with 800 views.
Oh, so it's probably just like a short. Yeah.
So that section of Daily Hub, great. Bad. And then the section below that is worse somehow. These at the bottom of Daily Hub, that's always there, are, I think Google calls them topics of interest. And these are just random topics that I'll throw up. And if you tap on one, sometimes it'll be a YouTube video related to that topic or just a Gemini answer or Gemini summary of that topic. I obviously search a lot of tech stuff for this job, so I think one I had was Explore Pixel 9 camera secrets. A couple days ago, I had Explore Samsung Galaxy S25 leaks, which is very helpful with the phone having launched in January to look up leaks for that. But I've also just gotten out of left field things. I think the example I used in that article I wrote, there was a topic for perfect belly dance finger symbols. Contrary to popular belief, I've never had an interest in
100%. You're totally 100% right.
Never use Google to search up belly dancing finger symbols, but that was my number one topic one day, and it's just there's nothing like. In theory, that could be somewhat interesting if it's pulling from like news headlines or if you can customize what those things are. But if they're related to me, they're so boilerplate and so generic that there's just nothing of value there, or they're just things I've never thought of or are just feel like they're thrown in there for no discernible reason. And it's just really, really bizarre. Like I would almost rather it just be like a Google News widget or something, but instead it's this.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've had any better luck with it or not. I'm assuming not, but it's just a bizarre thing to include in there.
Yeah, Joe, this is not a joke. The first suggestion right now is called Uncover King of the Hill Humor. And when you click on it, one of the prompts is explore Hank Hill's humor. I'm gonna read it up here so I can stop looking down. Explore Hank Hill's humor through memorable quotes and moments. Right? You click that, and you get just the longest blurb from Gemini. Just really like explaining the like idea of what King of the Hill is in the most like boring way, like calling it a masterclass in understated humor and talking about how Hank Hill's humor stems from his sincerity and exaggerated reactions. And it's like this is the driest, most boring way to talk about what is a pretty good show. And like eventually you get to like after scrolling past like genuinely 300 words, you get to some quotes, but the quotes are just like, that boy ain't right, propane and propane accessories, right? Like the stuff everybody knows. And so I guess, and it's clearly giving me this because like we've been rewatching King of the Hill over the last few weeks, and like I have obviously looked it up a few times to like look up who the guest star is in an episode or something, because sometimes you're like, I know that voice, but I can't place it, and oh, it's Lisa Kudrow. I should have known. And I don't know who that's for. Like I truly like I guess it's neat that it's carrying my search history into this thing, but then it's not doing anything interesting with it, and is just kind of like throwing gibberish at me in a way that like doesn't make me want to watch more King of the Hill. Or maybe it does, but it doesn't make me want to interact with Gemini more. No. And I just don't know. To your point, it's like news would be more, and look, I'm being a little mean because like there are other things here. I guess there are by the way, we must have summoned it because now the Daily Hub thing is actually properly appearing in Discover for me. Like just now that we're recording this podcast, only took a week and a half. There's something like analyze Buffalo Bills game strategy, and I guess that could be interesting. But like, I'm fairly sure that like the blurb that Gemini is going to give me is just going to be, it's very long, and it's mostly talking about how Josh Allen is a good quarterback. And it's like, yeah, man, I know. So I don't know. I don't know what to make of Daily Hub, because it's so underbaked to the point of uselessness, which is exactly how I felt about Now Brief, like, 8-9 months ago now. And I it's just astounding. It was one thing from Samsung. Google has like the most data on me of any company out there. They could probably know everything about me if they went to compile a file with my name on it. And it doesn't seem to really be leveraging that at all beyond like basic search history to prompt you to like use Gemini.
It's frustrating too, because I mean, those are like the weather, the entertainment recommendations, and the topics of interest. Like those are the three like consistent things that always show up. But on top of that, you're also supposed to get cards or additional things in your Daily Hub just based on other Google apps or things you do on your phone. So that can be stuff from the Messages app that's supposed to be from Keep, even though I've never seen a Keep note pop up in there. I have seen things from Google Calendar and Gmail that have showed up, but they've been completely useless in the instances that I've seen them. One example was one of the nights we were together, we went to see a Warp Tour cover band, and it did pull up the Google Calendar event that I had made for it, which was a good reminder to say, like, I knew we were going to see that, but like it's still doing what it's supposed to do of showing you upcoming calendar events. It would have been more useful if it saw in my Gmail inbox that like I had a QR code and tickets for this thing tonight, and if it had surfaced that, like that would have been legitimately helpful.
Even if it was just like here's the email.
Yeah, not even that's what I'm saying. Not even displaying the QR code, but just like, hey, you have this email for this event tonight. Like that's easier than going into Gmail and searching for the specific email to find the tickets for that. We had another thing the day we went to Niagara Falls on the Maid of the Mist, going into, because like you have to scan a QR code to get on the boat and everything. And the afternoon before that, Daily Hub showed me nothing about the check-in email I needed to pull out to scan to get on the boat. And then after we scanned to get on, it sent a confirmation email that like your tickets have been used, like you're approved and everything.
Yeah, and we should add, because like that sounds confusing. I want to say the reason the Maid of the Mist does that is because when you buy a ticket, it's not for a specific time. You can use it anytime in the next like 3 or 4 months or something. And so when your ticket's been used, it sends you an email to be like, you've used your ticket, or your ticket. That way, if you can monitor it for fraud or whatever, I suppose. Like that's why you got that email, which I had also received when I scanned mine. So anyway, go ahead.
Yeah. So like when I got that confirmation email, then Daily Hub decided to show like the wording was like, hey, you can like check in now, or like here's your ticket for your boat ride or whatever. And it was just the confirmation email, because like we'd already scanned it and been on our way. And like I guess in that example, since there wasn't like a specific time for the ticket, like I can see how like Daily Hub maybe wouldn't know to pull that up, but it has to see that like I am in the area. I am like in Niagara City. I'm in Buffalo. My phone has access to that. Like maybe that's a step too far from like where we're at now, but like that's what this feature should be doing, of like, oh, you're in the area for this event.
Yeah, I'm not willing to give Google breaks on this stuff though, because like they are selling this as an AI phone, and I by the time this podcast goes out, I should have a piece up on the site about how frustrated I am that this phone is, and phones in general are being sold on software features that like, frankly, just work with absolutely no consistency, right? Like this Daily Hub is by far, I think, the worst one Google has shipped, where it's like, I don't even think I could ever plan on building this into my daily life, because I don't know what it's going to bring up to me. I don't know if what it's bringing up is right at all. I don't know, like, there, it's one of those things where in theory it could work perfectly, but it's never going to, because like the tech behind it is going to hallucinate or going to read things incorrectly, right? The email that you and I got from Maid of the Mist was like very obvious. It was very short and very to the point of like, your ticket has been scanned. Thank you for coming to Maid of the Mist. And for Google, for Daily Hub and for Gemini to read that and read it as, oh, you're ready to board now, like doesn't make, it's just guessing on what that email actually meant, which just creates, you and I know what's going on, but like to a general layperson, it's just going to be confusing.
Yeah. And on the way to Buffalo, like I had booked tickets with like Delta confirmation emails that went to my Gmail address. I had added boarding passes to Google Wallet, and the morning of the flight, like Daily Hub was showing the calendar entries for the flight, but you would think like, oh, there are passes for this flight today in Google Wallet, not just in the Delta app. Like that feels like something that should be able to be surfaced there, or even the confirmation emails from Delta. And it's just everything it doesn't do, but it's also just confusing. Like I don't understand it's the placement in Google Discover, just like what the long-term plans for this feature are. Because like in Google Discover, like not part of Daily Hub, if you swipe left, like at the top of Discover for a while now, there has been sort of like contextual cards up there for live sports scores, for the air quality. I've even seen it for like movies that are coming out soon in theaters that I've looked up on Google before. And like a lot of that stuff is more relevant than the stuff that shows up in Daily Hub. And it's just, there's between like this and also just stuff in Gemini, like there's so many ways it feels like where Google is trying to use AI or even just use your Google search history to surface you helpful things. But like, it's very evident there's not like one clear way to do that. So it's like, should I just go to Google Discover and look at those cards for things? Should I go to Daily Hub for things? Should I ask Gemini for those things?
Yeah.
If one of those worked really well, I would be happy, but like none of them work well right now for like that one centralized place to find stuff.
And they're not getting better, right? Like that's why I'm frustrated, is that like Google keeps introducing new things with every phone. And it's like, okay, but the stuff you announced last year has not improved. It's still as broken as it previously was. Or if it has improved, it's not to the point where I can rely on it. So now my phone is starting to feel like it is filled up with these tools that sometimes work. And that's not good. Like that's not a reliable like way to like enjoy technology. And I don't know. I'm very frustrated by it. Not because I don't see the vision. I see the vision. I think of every company working on AI right now, I think Google has the clearest consumer focused vision. That doesn't mean that I think all of this stuff is working well. And it's frustrating because I don't want to say I need something to work 100% of the time, but I do kind of need something to work 100% of the time to rely on it, because otherwise I'm just going to get annoyed and not use it. And I don't think that's what Google wants.
No. And like, we don't have to talk about Magic Queue too much, but like it's been a similar thing with that, which is supposed to surface relevant information. If you make like a phone call to a restaurant, it can surface reservation details if it's in your calendar or Gmail or something like that. And I tried testing it. I called Delta after we'd gotten back home from the Buffalo trip, and the Magic Queue card showed up like it was supposed to. And instead of showing me the email for the Italy trip my partner and I are taking and have confirmation emails for that's coming up later this year, it decided to show me the confirmation number and the flight info from the Buffalo, or for the Buffalo flight back home I took like 2 days prior. So it surfaced me something just completely irrelevant, and it should be able to see, oh, hey, this flight has happened, but you do have another flight coming up later this year. Maybe I should show you that information instead. But no, it's like the things are working, but it's not working well. And like you said, it's easy to think, oh, like this stuff is in preview, it's going to get better, and maybe it will, but there have been examples, like you said before, where things that wasn't the case and they did not improve to the state they needed to. And given how much work needs to be done for like Daily Hub and Magic Q to get to a place where I trust them to work, like even 90% of the time, like that's a big uphill battle. And I'm not fully confident it's going to happen. I hope it does, but like there's a lot of effort that's going to need to be put into those things to get to that place.
I'm running out of patience a little bit.
Yeah. Well, and it's frustrating too. Like maybe these things will be good in a year, but we shouldn't have to wait a year for them to be usable.
Exactly. Joe, we've been talking for 14 hours, I think. So I just want to
at least
that's true. It's been like an hour. But I do want to end on one final question for you, man. How good is blue cheese though on like a chicken wing? Isn't that so good?
Don't tell the Michigan folks listening to this podcast or plug your ears for a second. I will always have a place for ranch in my heart. I'm not anti-ranch, but blue cheese is the superior wing accessory. It is creamy. It is cheesy. It doesn't overpower the wing in the way a good ranch tends to do. Blue cheese good. That's my hot take.
You know, I wonder if that's what it is. I wonder if ranch is really good at covering up like a bad chicken wing, but blue cheese accentuates a good chicken wing.
That's true. No, I will. If someone offered me ranch to dip a wing in, I would not turn it down. But given the option between blue cheese and ranch, the one I'm picking that has changed to blue cheese. I'm sorry to the Michiganders who may be listening to this.
It's all I was hoping for. An entire long weekend hanging out with my buddy Joe, and all it was meant to be was to convince him that blue cheese is good. Joe, thank you for joining me. This whole trip was a trap. Joe, thank you for joining me. Where can people find you?
I'm on Twitter, Threads, and Blue Sky at JoeMaring1. I never use Twitter, Threads, or Blue Sky to post though, but I do write on Android Authority constantly. I usually have something published every day, if not every other day. So I should be more active on socials, but I just don't want to be. So you can find my writing on AndroidAuthority.com, and there is usually something with my byline posted at the top of the website there.
Joe, thank you for coming on. You are one of my best friends, and this has been a blast. And we'll have you back at some point to talk about whatever else you're writing about. And thank you, the listener or viewer for listening or watching, because this is episode 3. It's only gonna get better. For example, I don't think my camera freaked out this time like it did last time, so that's good. It means less editing for me. Yeah. Thank you. Thanks everybody for listening. Please rate the show on whatever podcast app you're using, or give it a like if it's on YouTube. And we've got a couple guests booked up for the next 2 weeks, and I think it's going to be really fun. I'm really excited about both of them. You will be surprised to find out who's not talking about foldables. Is all I'll say. I'm going to have someone on to talk about foldables. I'm going to have someone to talk about not foldables. And I think people will be surprised who is not talking about foldables. So there's my hint. See if you can figure it out. But until next time, blue cheese, better than ranch.
Blue cheese,
definitively.
good.
We've said
it here.